Today I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey, and it all starts with picking some thyme from my garden. You may think that making venison breakfast sausage would be an easy feat, but do you want to know how many versions of venison breakfast sausage there are? So many. And this is totally fine because some people have preferences for things. Not totally fine when you think that it's going to turn out just perfectly and you are very unpleasantly surprised at the result. Let me begin this story by introducing you to backstrap. Yes, I used backstrap when I made this sausage recipe, which I feel like is a huge faux pas when you're working with venison. But let's be honest, I had lots of backstrap, didn't have a lot of roast that I could see, and so I just took it. And doesn't it look so beautiful? I was inspired by the meat eater breakfast sausage recipe, and you might be too. However, I thought I wanted to tweak it a little bit at the end. I ground up the 4 pounds of the most beautiful backstrap ever by using my KitchenAid grinder attachment. You can easily find this online or in a store near you. I'm not making any money off it, but I absolutely love it. Turn my grinder on medium-high and ground that venison up to oblivion. It's always the suggested practice to freeze your venison for an hour or so before you start to grind it. Then your grinder won't get all gummed up. But if you don't have time, you gotta do what you gotta do. And really, it turned out just fine. Before I had even researched a breakfast sausage recipe, I had picked up a pack of medium ground pork from the store. It was a club pack, so it ended up being about 4 pounds. I only used 2 pounds of it because that would have been the proper ratio for the recipe. However, the recipe did say that I should use, I think, pork belly or pork fat or something. So the consistency of it might be a little bit off from what the actual meat eater recipe would be. I happened to have some fresh garlic on hand at this moment, and I wanted to use it because fresh garlic is way better than jarred garlic any day of the week. The part that made me a little bit sad was the fact that I had to use ground sage. I had been growing sage in my little herb garden outside, and when I went to get some, it was dead. So I wasn't going to go to the store to get fresh new stuff, so I just used the ground. At least I had enough time. But do we ever really have enough time? Mom jokes, just as bad as dad jokes. It was at this point that I was putting the brown sugar in that I should have realized, hey, it's not going to be that sweet. But did I do anything about it? Nope. I just followed what the recipe said. I did not use as many chili flakes as they had said because I've had breakfast sausage that smacks you in the face with so much heat, and that's not my preference. And in contrast to the ground sage, I did not have any ground cloves. So I got to use my mortar and pestle, which was awesome because I love this thing, and I got to have some fresh ground cloves for the recipe. Looking back at this video, I'm definitely realizing I was not prepared for making this sausage. So here I am using pickling salt, not kosher salt. But really, salt is salt, right? Right? Here's where things get interesting. Try blending up 6 pounds of meat in your KitchenAid mixer. It doesn't work very well at all. I don't actually know the size of my bowl or my mixer, but I think I should get a bigger one. I was putting the sausage through a second grind, and it was a bit gummy. So I decided to lay it out on this pan and pop it in my freezer for a couple hours so the meat would firm up and grind a lot better. And it did. By this time of me second grinding it, it was mid-afternoon. The kids were going to come home from school. I started to need to do supper prep, so I didn't taste or test anything. Later that night, I did, and I did not love it at all. I don't know if it was too much clove or not using fresh sage and using ground sage. I don't know. Whatever it was, something was off, and I could not serve that to my children because they just wouldn't eat it. The next day, I decided to make my own adjustments. I took half a pound of sausage meat and mixed it with about an 1/8 cup of maple syrup, and then it ended up being about a tablespoon of flour because the maple syrup just made everything runny and not mixed together at all. By adding that flour, it made the meat a really great consistency. It wasn't weird or anything. Because the plan was to turn this sausage into breakfast burritos, I wanted to make rectangles to put in the burrito with eggs and cheese. Fun tip that I found out, if you wet your counter and then put foil or parchment down, it won't slide away. So that was awesome. And really, you can make this sausage however you want. You don't have to do this burrito rectangle technique. You can just leave it ground and fry it up in a pan, throw it in a breakfast hash. You can make circles, you can put it in a casing, whatever you want. It's your sausage. Enjoy. To this second pound of sausage, I added an extra tablespoon of brown sugar to see if that would make any difference in the taste. And then I popped them both in the freezer. My second tip for you, if you have not made sausage before, make sure that you got a lot of time on your hands. And have the proper ingredients when you go to make sausage. Maybe read your recipe before you do and make a plan. Yeah, that's a good option. Time for a little taste test. This is the brown sugar one. So let's see. It's still bad. On that beautiful sweet note, I'm gonna fry up the maple sausage and see if that is any better. Hopefully. I had noticed that the last time I cooked the sausage, it was sticking to the bottom. So I put some butter in to give it a bit of slip, and obviously butter is the best, so you just use it whenever you can. This maple flavor could go really great or really badly. We'll see. I'm pleasantly surprised. That was awesome! Maple, that is the key. With those beautiful words still ringing in my ear, I added the maple syrup to the rest of the sausage. Altogether, I added 1 1/4 cups to 5 pounds of sausage. I don't know why I was actually surprised that the maple did better than the brown sugar. I'm Canadian. I should just know that maple syrup wins every time. Since I wasn't enjoying the big goopy mess that the maple syrup gave me, I added some more flour and mixed it all together. I lined 2 pans with tin foil. You could use parchment if you wanted, I just didn't have any. Once it was all flat, I began to divide it up into my little rectangles. It was pretty nice. I was able to get 18 rectangles per sheet. If you were to do this, you could probably get more. I think maybe next time I will try and get a few more, maybe 20 or 22, something like that. And at 400 degrees in my convection oven for 20 minutes, I was able to get these. They kept their shape, they're nice and brown and glistening because of all of that butter. You could store these in your fridge or freezer and reheat them in a pan or in the microwave, or you could make up some breakfast burritos, which is my plan, so the kids can just grab one, heat it up before they go to school, and have a great tasty breakfast. I definitely feel inspired with how I can use this sausage in other ways. If you want to see some really fun recipes coming up, then you should definitely subscribe and keep your eyes peeled. Thanks for watching. Happy cooking.